Hello. Today I'm going to talk with a CASA about what a CASA does, what a CASA is, and how a CASA may or may not be able to help you as a foster parent. Hi, I'm here today with my wife Katie, who is a CASA, and I want to just start with asking, what exactly is a CASA?
So CASA actually stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. And what that means is I get appointed by a magistrate, a judge, to a case where kids are in through the county, in through Children's Services. And my job is to advocate for them.
So a CASA is just another set of eyes for kids in foster care?
Well, not just foster care. Kids that are in the system through Children's Services could be appointed a CASA, but they may be in kinship care, or one parent may still have custody, or it's not just kids in foster care.
So it's anybody that the system is servicing with.
Yes.
Oh, I always thought that CASA was somebody that only took care of foster care,
Right.
not outside of foster
Right.
care. So how often do you visit the children typically?
So I've been a CASA for a year and a half, and I have 2 separate cases, and that's the maximum usually that people have. We have to see our kids once a month. I try to see mine like every 2 weeks, especially in the beginning, maybe even a little bit more, because you really just want to like build that relationship so that you feel close to the kids and that you get to learn a lot about them.
What kinds of things do you talk about with the children?
Well, it all depends on the age. So I have kids that are like school age, and then I have kids that are babies. So obviously I don't talk to them. And then I have teenagers. So in the beginning, it's really just superficial stuff, just getting to know them and just asking about their life and their interests and stuff like that. And then if they're older, when it's coming close to court time, that's when you would just ask them like their wishes and how they're feeling about the things of the case and what they would want the judge to know, because you get to submit your report that voices their wishes.
Okay, and so do you talk to the guardian? And if you do, how often do you do that? Or how does that work?
So it just depends. Every case is different, just like foster care. So, for instance, if I have kids that live with somebody, like I have one person that was living with a grandparent, so obviously they're kids. So every time I went, I would speak with the kids and with the caregiver, Another one, like the mom was back, had, custody. So every time I went and visited the babies, I would mostly be talking to mom, So it just depends. If kids are in foster care, same. So I had kids that were in foster care and having visits with their mom. So I would go visit sometimes with the mom and see how she interacts with the kids and, notice those kind of things and talk with her. And then also go and visit them when they are at the foster home and like talk with the foster parents as well.
Okay. So who else do you meet with besides a guardian and maybe the children or a foster parent? Is there anybody else that you meet with?
I can meet with anybody that's involved with the kids. So like I've spoken on the phone and emailed a lot with teachers if kids are in school. I've gotten medical records for kids from their doctor. I've talked to counselors. Anyone that's involved with the kids. That's one thing that's a little bit different is I can't speak with anyone without permission from the parents if it's involving the parents. For instance, I had a case where the mom had gone through drug treatment and was doing well, and she signed a document for me to be able to talk to that person. So then I was able to submit that to the court, what they had said about her. Otherwise, I cannot do that because I am assigned to the children, not to the parents.
Okay. I think a question that a lot of foster parents are asking is, why do we need a CASA? Why can't the courts just ask the foster parent,
Right.
they're with the kids all the time. So why do you think?
I think a couple of reasons. One, I had to be sworn in. I had to take an extensive training, basically like foster care training, but just for this volunteer position. It's a volunteer. But then I had to get sworn in by the magistrate saying that I would, honor all of the laws and do what was best for these kids. And so I'm an advocate for the kids. And my job is to look at all parts of their case. Whereas a foster parent, sometimes I know being a mom, like you're kind of like leaning towards like, oh, looking for things to protect your kids, right? Where my job is to look at all aspects. For instance, when I do a report, so every time there's a court hearing every 3 months, my job is to write a report to the magistrate. It gets submitted to the courts. Everybody involved in the case then gets a copy of it. But I will say all aspects of like how the kids are doing in school, how they're doing health-wise, how they're doing in their foster home, how they're doing with their bio parent. And, reunification, if the kids are in foster care, or even if they're with kinship, reunification of the family unit is the goal. And so it's my job to be able to kind of look at eyes from all aspects. Like, okay, yes, they're not here where they need to be with their case plan, but I noticed that mom's making progress in this. Like, she's done that. Whereas, I was a foster parent, It's hard sometimes to do that because you're like, okay, yeah, they did that, but they're still doing this, this, and this, right? And I get that. And so the courts need somebody who's going to be like kind of stand back and really just look at the kids. So, and also it allows the judge to hear from the kid's perspective, because that's my job, is to say, and I'll say to the kids, even they were like 5 and 9, and I say, you can say whatever you want, and they will say, I just want to go home and live with my mom. Okay, and I can put that in there. Now, then my job is to put in recommendations as a CASA, what I feel is best for the kids. And for instance, in a case, I may say, well, although the kids are requesting this, I don't feel like mom's ready yet, but I've seen this, this, and this. So my recommendation would be for them to remain in foster care, but continue with the case plan or whatever.
So why do you think a foster parent should want a CASA on their case? What advantage is there to a foster parent, if any?
Well, the GAL sees the kids once every 90 days, right?
Right.
The caseworker sees them once a month, which is all I'm required to too, but I see them more. From what I've seen in my perspective as a foster parent and also talking to other foster parents, a lot of times the county worker will come and it's like super, like wrote, like, okay, like how's school, how's this, how's that, like they have to go. They have so many cases that they have, and we don't have as many, so we can really dive in deeper. We can listen to the foster parents. I mean, one of my most recent experiences was mom got custody back of her babies, and myself and the GAL asked to stay on the case for an extra few months, which is allowed. And because of that, the kids are back in care and they're safe, and mom needs to get help. She wasn't fully ready. And as foster parents, that happens a lot. You want reunification, but a lot of times you feel like the system's like speeding it up, and you don't feel good about it. You feel like, not that you don't want them to be with their parents, but you don't feel that they're ready. And like that extra set of eyes and someone that can actually speak to the courts is super, super beneficial.
Well, that's great, because that rolls into my next question. So like, what kinds of recommendations have you made to the court being a CASA?
So recommendations such as I had a child that was of age for preschool, but was just at home with grandma all day. And I thought socially that would benefit her to enter into preschool, that children would go to therapy, so they have someone to talk to. Recommendations for visits. I made a recommendation that visits, it was with like a family member, but mom didn't feel comfortable because of judgments, and then that's not good for the kids either. So recommendations that visits would be at a visit center, so that it would be like a person that wasn't really involved in the case. So maybe that visits would be better, because that is the goal, is for kids to be with their parents. So
from a foster parent's perspective, you were both.
Yeah.
So how, and now you're a CASA, what can a foster parent do to help the CASA, or maybe what can a foster parent do to maybe help get the CASA to advocate for them? Now, obviously, CASAs are going to do what they feel is best, but what would be your recommendation there?
I think taking the time to build a relationship and realize that the CASA is there for the kids. And then keep that open communication, like letting them know, like that's what a foster parent recently has done with me is like, oh, daycare's worried about this. Like this was when we were on the verge of reunification, you know? And so then I can reach out to the daycare. And then it's me reporting back from the daycare rather than just the foster parent saying, oh, the daycare told me this. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Or like, oh, I'm worried about this or this. And it's not just the foster parent saying it. Then I reached out to the GAL. And so we both went and looked at it from a different set of eyes. And I would definitely think that foster parent is super, super grateful that I was on the case because I think it really helped benefit the kids. And I think she could, you know, her and her husband can see that.
So do you ever have foster parents or bio parents that don't like the fact that you're on the case?
I have one that tried to get me off because she's an addict. So you don't want more sets of eyes on you if you're not doing what you're supposed to. I mean, it is one more visit. I do try to schedule my visits with the county worker and the GAL because they come less often, and I'll tell my families, I get it. Like, I've been there. I know how many visits there are, but I think that the benefits are great. Now, not everybody gets a CASA. Like, There's a lot of cases that there's not enough for. I know I work through Parachute, which is in Butler County, and they will not assign us to someone if we would be like in danger. Like if there's you know what I mean? So not everybody can get one. And there's also people, we get emails every month of cases that are requesting CASAs. A lot of times the GAL will request it, but there's just not enough. So, you know, if you're interested and that's another way to get involved, that's what happened to me. I used to be a foster parent, was adoptive parent. I wanted to still be involved in foster care. And this is a great way to still do that.
Well, I hope that this helped you understand what a CASA is, what a CASA does. You know, for some of you, you're probably thinking, great, one more person coming in my business. But I think you probably heard that, you know, you can use a CASA to your advantage. But the thing that we always have to remember is that the CASA is not always going to agree with you. They're not even going to, they may not even advocate for you if they don't feel that that's best for the children. And so as a foster parent, that puts you in a tough place, but I guarantee you if you build a relationship with your CASA and you take that time to build that relationship, you'll recognize that the CASA really wants the best for everybody. And finally, the thing you have to remember is that, you know, we've talked about this in my court series, and that is that the courts don't necessarily listen to us as foster parents. They don't give us near the weight, but as you heard, a CASA gets a lot of weight in the court systems. Now, do the court systems do everything that the CASA asks? Absolutely not. But they certainly have a lot of weight. And so, you know, a CASA can be one more advocate to help these precious children that you have in your care. If you enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.